Welcome to the video rulebook for the prototype of solutions. The first thing I'll have you check is if you have an earlier version of the prototype or not. So you will notice in the top right corner here of the game board, right now on my video, the puddle is in black. And if you have an earlier prototype, this puddle and top area will be in red. So if that's you, I'll ask you to start at the end of the video. I'll put a time code now and start there and then come back to where you left off here. Giving you an overview of the game and what it's all about, then we'll talk about the setup, we'll go through a sample turn, and then finally we'll talk about the advanced rules, which you don't need to worry about if you're just starting out. Solutions is a completely collaborative game about hope and action for the climate. And what that means is that there's no competition. Everyone is on the same team to save the world together. The game is really focused on this giant thermometer, and what's going to happen is as you move forwards through time on this track on the left, global temperatures are going to increase as humans emit pollution. And it's your job as a team to play this giant stack of climate solutions to bring temperatures back down. Your goal is by the end of the game, by the year 2050, to have kept temperature at or below 1.5 degrees, which is marked by the green target. And so you can go, before the year 2050, you can go above 1.5 degrees, but you need to get it back down in time for 2050. You are going to lose the game if temperatures by 2050 are at or above 2 degrees, which is the catastrophic limit you see marked on the board. And so if by the year 2050 you have kept temperatures at or below 1.5 degrees, the target, you win. If it's above 2 degrees, then you lose. And if it's somewhere in the middle, then you haven't done amazing. Still, there are some terrible effects from climate change, but you've at least avoided the worst effects. So you can do better next time, but it's a good consolation prize. For the game is really simple. You're going to start by placing the board in the middle of the playing field. Now, first you need to decide if you want to play normal mode, which is, as you can see here, 60 to 90 minutes, or if you flip the board over, then you can play short mode, which is 30 to 45 minutes, as you can see in the top right here. And I strongly suggest playing normal mode. Short mode is really very short. There's only 4 turns, and short mode is really designed for teachers and educators who have limited time in their classrooms, or for you if you have a really busy life. Once you've put the board in the middle of the table, you want to separate all the cards. So you have these standard size, poker size cards, and these are the solution cards. And the main solutions in the game have no special markings, as you can see here. So you want to separate those and remove the silver cards, which are advanced cards, and the gold cards are advanced cards as well. And so if this is your first time playing and you don't want to play with advanced rules, we are just going to put these silver and gold cards out of the way and not play with them. You next want to give each player a turn summary card. So I'm going to play with 3 players, so I'll flip the turn summary, and this is basically, it just reminds you of what you need to do in a turn. So I'll put one for one player there, another over here, and another for the third player over here. You then want to separate all the mini cards, and so you have the feedback loops, the rewards, and the blue events and the white events. And next, you're going to give each player 3 solution cards. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And it's really important that all players always have 3 solutions at all times. So if you play a solution during the game and then you only have 2 left, draw another one. And you always want 3. So the next thing to do for setup is to put the year marker on the time track. And what you need to decide here is if you want to play medium, hard, or extra hard mode. So hard mode starts in 2020, and in 2020 we were at about 1 degree above pre-industrial temperatures. So you will put your marker right here. You can see there's the marking for 2020 right beside 1.0. Medium mode starts in 1990, and the reason we chose 1990 is because 1990 is really when scientific consensus was truly established about climate change, and it's when the first IPCC report came out. So it's a nice what-if scenario. What if we had listened to scientists right away and gotten our act together? And you will start with the temperature all the way down here at 0.5 degrees. You see again marked by the 1990. And I recommend most new players start here, unless you're an absolute climate whiz. Hard mode is really designed to be just like in real life. It's achievable if we do really well, but it will be quite challenging. And then extra hard mode, I do not suggest playing this mode unless you are a veteran of the game. And basically it simulates what if we do nothing until 2030, and you will start all the way up here at 1.4 degrees. And don't forget, your goal by the end of the game is to keep temperature at or below 1.5 degrees. All right, so I suggest that you start on medium, but what do the different starting points mean? So, of course, it means where you start here on the temperature track, but also, as you see below, influences how much temperature you increase every round. So on medium and hard, you go up by 3 temperature every round. So that means if you go up from 1990 to 2000, then you'll go up by 3 temperature, 1, 2, 3. And then if you move to the next space, you'll go up by another 1, 2, 3. And on extra hard mode, you see you go up by 4. And then the other thing that it influences is that you have a maximum limit of the number of cards you can play. So on medium mode, you can only play 4 solutions at a time, and we'll talk about playing solutions later, but you can only play 4 at a time. On hard mode, you can play 5, and on extra hard, you can play 6. And this increases once you hit the blue squares. So you can see once you hit the blue, it says maximum 5 cards for medium, maximum 6 for hard. So then you can play 1 more card. And then once you hit the last turn of the game, there's an infinite symbol, and so you can play an infinite amount of cards on your last turn. You'll also notice this +1 symbol right here, and once you reach this square, you earn a reward card, and you will be able to play that immediately. The other thing you need to know for setup is you should have a stopwatch, so this is what it looks like in the virtual world. If you're playing with a physical prototype, you can just use the stopwatch or timer on your phone, or on a watch, or a sand timer, or whatever. You'll need to be able to count time in 30-second, 60-second, and 90-second intervals. And you'll also want a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, which is needed for some of the cards. Go through a sample turn and actually play the game. So I have the game set up for 3 players, so each player has 3 cards. You want to make sure that you do not flip these cards over accidentally, or if you're reading one of the cards, don't show the back of the cards, and you'll understand why in a moment. And so everyone can have the cards in front of them. You can see each other's cards. It's a collaborative game, but it's very important that you do not help your friends pick which card they're going to propose. That's a personal decision. And so we will start with the first player, and the first thing they do is they will propose a solution, and again, it's completely their choice which solution they want to pick. And they are going to place it underneath the board and read it out to everyone so everyone knows what the solution is. Then the next player will propose a solution, and they need to propose if they think the solution can have more impact or less impact than the first solution. And so how do you want to think about this? Well, the game is based on an organization called Project Drawdown, and Drawdown is a team of over 200 experts and scientists who have analyzed over 100 climate solutions, and they have ranked these solutions based on how much impact they can have in solving climate change. And so when you're thinking about which solution can have more impact, there are some tips and prompts on the game board here that can help you out. So first of all, the solutions are ranked from 1 to 76, and 1 is the most impactful. So if you think farmland restoration can have more impact. That means it's closer to the number 1. You can see the number 1 to 76 here on the board. And so if you think it has more impact, you would place it on the left. And it's just a proposal. You haven't finalized your decision, so I usually put it halfway up like you see here. If you want to propose it has less impact, you would put it to the right. And what are the other tips and prompts? So solutions are implemented between 2020 and 2050. So how much impact can recycled paper have between 2020 and 2050? Solution adoption is optimistic but plausible. That means that recycled paper does not mean that every ounce of recycled paper or every ounce of paper in the world is recycled. It means you have to think about what's realistic based on economics, based on technology, based on adoption, etc. There are no major technological breakthroughs needed. So that means that technology will improve, yes, but we're not going to assume that someone has invented a crazy paper recycling machine that automatically converts all the world's paper into recycled paper. So technology progress is realistic, but not crazy. You want to, there are some prompts here, so you want to think about how would different regions use the solution. Maybe the cost of the solution might affect how many people use it. Maybe population growth will affect how many people can use it. And how might other solutions affect this one? Maybe there are some interactions between solutions. So those are just some starting points to think about and to help you with the discussion. And basically, once this second player proposes their solution, it kicks off the discussion. And their proposal is not final. Now everyone has a chance to speak their mind, and you can discuss the solutions and discuss which you think should be ranked higher. And once you come to a decision, let's say you decide to rank it here, you'll put the solution up next to it, and then you will flip the cards and see if you were right. And so on the back of the cards, the giant number is the drawdown ranking. So again, number 1 is the most impactful, number 76 is the least impactful. And so here you see that you were right. So 23 is more impactful than 66. There's also this number here, which is the gigatons of reduced CO2 equivalent that the solution can have between 2020 and 2050. It's not useful for the game. It's just for your context to give you a sense of the scale of the solutions. And then there's also this graph that also helps give you a sense of scale. So the white bar on the graph tells us what the current adoption is. So here you can see there are currently 20 million hectares of farmland restoration in the year 2020. 2050, this is how much is projected to be there in 2050, so 189 million hectares. And then the dark bar is the maximum possible adoption for this solution. Here there's a short blurb that gives you some more context as to why the solution is ranked where it is. And if you ever want more information, you can always scan the QR code and it will take you directly to the Drawdown website, and you can dive into their technical information and the resources behind the solution. Obviously, there's no need to do this whatsoever. It's really just there if you're curious to learn more. So we've played these two solution cards and we got them right. Now, the next player has a difficult decision to make if they want to risk proposing another solution or not. So why would you propose another solution? Well, basically, the more solutions you propose, the more you'll reduce temperature. So we are playing on medium, and we are starting in 1990, so down here. And so if you ended the turn here and you have 2 correct solutions, you would reduce temperature by 2, 1, 2, and you'd end up at 0. But then you would go to the next year space, and on medium you go up by 3 every round, so you would go right back up by 3. And you would end up at 0.6. And so if player 3 proposes another solution, first of all, it doesn't need to be a better solution. They can propose it's more impactful, they can propose it's less impactful, or they can propose it in between if they would like. And if you get it right, then you'll be able to reduce temperature by 3 instead of 2. But again, you'll go up by 3 next turn. And so let's say that this player does propose it, and let's say they propose it at the end as the least impactful, and everyone agrees. So you are going to flip it and find out that the order was incorrect. And so that immediately ends the turn. So if you get one wrong, it ends the turn, and you would discard this card since it's incorrect, and it basically incurs a penalty where you remove one of these cards as well. And so you're left with only one card, which means you reduce temperature by 1, and then you go to the next year space, which means you go up again by 3. We got these solutions wrong, and so what are we going to do? So we're going to remove these cards. I'm going to reset this. So we were on medium mode. We started at 0.5. We played 3 cards, got one of them wrong, so we get rid of this card, get rid of this card. So we have 1 left over, which means we reduce temperature by 1. And then we're going to go to the next year space, and we will go up by 3. 1, 2, 3. So we're at 0.7. And so now we can discard these cards. And so now there's a new turn, and there's a new rule. Every new turn, except for the first turn, you are going to pick an event card and flip it over and do what it says. There are a few different types of event cards. Some of them have big decisions to make. So this one, for example, you need to decide as a team if you want to play the next turn where no one can speak, or you can not do that, but you have to go up by 1 temperature right away. So I'm going to pick that just for demonstration purposes. We're just going to move temperature up by 1. There's some other types of event cards. For example, there's some brainstorming type cards like this one. And here you can see the Earth symbol and the +1. And so if you do one of these cards successfully, you will earn a reward card, and you'll do what it says on the card. So we'll put this back here. Now, it's important that you only pick up reward cards that are the white reward cards while you're in the white portion of the time track. Once you reach the blue portion, now you can shuffle in these blue cards into the white pile, and then you'll just pick whichever one happens to be on top. All right, so we're back in the year 2000, and we've flipped over our event card. We've done what it says. Now, one more rule to add is while we're progressing through the game, you may at some point end up in these danger zones with the flaming dice. So you can see there's a flaming 6 dice, flaming 5 and 6, etc. And so let's say you happen to be at 1.8 degrees and you're in the zone with a flaming 5 or a 6. At the beginning of your turn, before you flip over the event card, you are going to roll the dice. And if you roll a 5 or a 6, then you will pick up a feedback loop card, and those have various negative effects. And so this basically simulates the real world. In the real world, the warmer the world gets, the more likely we are to have these feedback loops. And we don't really know quite when we'll get them, but we know that they become more likely the warmer the world gets. So this one, permafrost release, we are going to go up by 2 temperature. And so you would go up 1, 2. And then some of the reward cards, as you earn them through the event cards, they can help counter some of the feedback loops, and they can help you out a bit. So to review the rules in the turn order, let's take a look at the turn summary card. And by the way, I'm just noticing, remember I said every player needs to have 3 cards at all times, so I'm going to give a card back to all these players. And so let's go through the turn summary. So the first thing you're going to do on a turn is roll for your feedback loop. Now you have these stars here, so you're not going to do that on the first year, and you're only going to do it if required. So step 1, I'm going to bring this summary card here just so we have it next to us. So step 1, roll for feedback loop, see if you get one. Step 2, draw an events card. Again, you don't do that on the first turn. Step 3 is you're going to take action. So the first player is going to propose a solution like we did. Then you're going to discuss that solution, discuss as a team where you want to rank it. You're going to vote on the order of the solutions. So if there is a tie in the votes, let's say you're 4 players or you're 2 players and you just can't agree, then the tiebreaker is going to go to whoever proposed the solution. So if this player proposes smart thermostats here, they proposed it, so they get the tiebreaker. And then you're going to reveal the order, and obviously you won't do that for the first card. And then if you got it right, then you will continue, and you can go through the process again. And if not, then you end the turn, like we said before. And then finally you count the score, and you will go to the new year on the time track, and you'll increase your temperature as required. The last thing we need to talk about is, how does the game end? And there's really two ways you can end the game. The first is to survive all the way till the year 2050. And so what happens is your last turn is the turn before 2050. So this is your last turn if you're playing on medium, and you can see you can play an infinite amount of cards on your last turn, and then you're going to resolve the turn as normal. But then you move the marker to the 2050 space, and you still do go up by 3 temperature in 2050. So you have to keep that in mind on your last turn. Now, if you make it to the end of the game that way, great job, and now you'll see where you ended up on the temperature marker, and if you made it to at 1.5 degrees or below, congratulations, you win. If you made it above 2 degrees, at or above 2 degrees, then unfortunately you lost, and if you're somewhere in the middle, then you did okay, but better luck next time. Now, the other way to end the game is if at a point during the game you end up breaking the thermometer. You make it all the way up here, past 4.9 degrees to over 5 degrees, and that means you have 1 turn left to save the world from experiencing runaway climate change. And so what you need to do is you need to look at what difficulty mode you're playing on and see the maximum number of cards that are written here, or the maximum number, if you're in the blue zone, then on medium you're at maximum 5 cards. So you need to play that number of cards. So in this case, we would need to play 5 cards in a row successfully. And if you're successful at doing that, then you can bring the temperature all the way back down to the catastrophic limit, and you survive till the next turn. And if you are not successful with all 5 cards, then the world has experienced runaway climate change, and you will immediately lose the game. The advanced rules, and you do not need to worry about these rules if it's your first time playing the game, but they do add something. And so the first thing is, as you propose solutions and you end your turn, you can create a solution map with the solutions that you've proposed. So for example, if you've proposed these 3 cards, you got this one wrong as before, you can start to make a solution map. And so you can do this in 2 ways. You can either map out the cards as you've played them to show you where you went wrong, or you can put them in the proper order to give you a bit of an overview of the solutions as you progress through the game. And basically, as you propose solutions, you're going to end up with this map of what you did throughout the game. All right, so that's one rule. And then the other thing is we're going to bring back these advanced cards into play. So the silver cards are unranked cards, and you can see if you flip them over, there's actually not applicable on the back. Basically, Drawdown did not rank these solutions because they would be double counting. So for example, if you look at energy storage, the real benefit of energy storage does not come from the batteries that are storing the energy. It comes from the wind turbines and the solar panels that are producing the energy. And so this card is really just enabling other solutions. And so thus it's not ranked. And you can play this on an associated solution. So for example, if someone has played the bioplastics card and you want to somehow argue that energy storage has something to do with bioplastics, I don't think you'd be successful, but if you wanted to, you can. And if everyone agrees, then that will give you an extra bonus. So it will count as another card, which means you can reduce temperature by 1 extra space. And the gold cards are the coming attractions. So the gold cards are some of the crazy solutions that are not ranked because the science isn't all in yet. So we have various solutions that they could have a ton of impact, but no one really knows. And so these solutions act as a bit of a betting card. So you can propose one, but only if you're on an ambitious enough turn. This means that on medium, it goes by the number of cards here. So on medium, you can only play a gold card if you've already successfully played 4 solutions. On hard, you can only play it if you've successfully played 5. And so then if you play one, you're going to flip the card over immediately, and you can see you have a dice roll, and for example on this card, if you roll a 4 or higher, you'll be able to immediately reduce temperature by 1. You've made it through the video rulebook. I really hope you enjoy playing the game, that you have some great discussions and learn something along the way, and I am always looking for feedback, so please get in touch with me if you have any thoughts or ideas on how to make the game better. And I would also absolutely love to hear if you learned something, if the game inspired you to think about climate in a different way or to take some kind of action. Please let me know. Thank you. You have an older prototype of the game, which you can identify because the top of the thermometer here will be red instead of black. Then do not worry, the main game is completely the same and you're going to have a great experience. You'll just need to make a few really simple tweaks to the game to make it work. So the first tweak is, in terms of the number of spaces, on your version, you will have 10 spaces here on the normal side of the game board, and you will have 5 on short mode. This is too many spaces. So on short mode, you only want to play 4 spaces, and on normal mode, you only want to play 8. So you can ignore the excess spaces that you have and skip right from the 8th space to 2050. The second change is that for the advanced rules, these gold and silver cards will be a lot harder to spot. So there will only be a small silver strip at the top and bottom, small gold strip at the top and bottom, so just be aware of that. Otherwise, when you're choosing medium hard or extra hard mode, you will notice on your game board, it will actually say easy, medium, and hard mode. So it's just relabeled, it doesn't matter at all. But the thing that does matter is you are going to be missing this maximum number of cards, so you do want to keep this in mind. And you will also have different numbers here for how much temperature you go up per round. So on your board, it will say +2, +2, and +3. Ignore what it says on your board and go with these numbers, +3, +3, and +4. The last difference is that instead of having 2 different piles of event cards, you'll only have 1 pile, so they'll all be together. Don't worry about it. You can just play the events cards as they come up. And so that is all the changes. So now join me back at the front of the video and we will get into how to play the game.